And look at the joy from the team underneath him. Second best on Saturday, top step on Sunday. Congratulations, Lewis Hamilton. I guess these celebrations only slightly dampened, Eddie, by the fact that Sebastian Vettel still leads in the championship by 77 points, which of course is still more than 3 race wins. But that man holding that trophy won't be thinking about that right now.
Supreme. What he achieved yesterday in the qualifying, I did not think he could carry it through as well as he did do today in the race. Yes, I fancied him for the race. These are perfect conditions. He looked after the tyres well, but the key point for me was passing Alonso on the outside of turn 2. That was the telling factor. That's why he's on the top podium.
And there were some dramatic pit stops today. We've talked a lot about where McLaren's struggles this season at times have come from, and one of the issues has been the strategy calls that they've made. Well, today, one pit stop didn't do the business for Lewis, but the other one did, and you have to say the team were pretty much on the money today.
I think, you know, pit stops was pretty much regular. Everybody went for the 3 stops, and you know, it was no big surprise. It was clear-cut. I think if they'd got it wrong on the strategy today, there would have been all sorts of things being asked, but they didn't, and they did a brilliant job. And actually, after yesterday's little debate that we had with McLaren, who knows, the motivation they maybe required came from some other people. Well done to Martin, of course. Here we're back looking at you, but we're not embarrassed, don't worry, we're delighted for you.
We are indeed delighted for you, particularly delighted for Lewis. We were talking about the importance that the pit stops played there, but actually, above all of that, the importance of Lewis's aggressive driving was what helped him win that race.
No, I think, you know, what a fantastic race. You had 3 teams, 3 drivers really battling it out, and the pit stops had to be right, they had to be at the right time, they had to be consistent, and the drivers had to get straight on it, you know, to get on with that prime tyre, just nail it straight away like that as well. So, you know, Lewis just drove a fantastic race.
Just explain to us how nervous you were, because we said that the crucial phase in this race was going to be 8 or 9 laps from the end, when that harder tyre went onto the cars. Nobody really knew what would happen with the performance. What was the feeling on the pit wall at that moment? A bit of nerves?
Yeah, well, a little bit of nerves all the way through, to be honest, but I was a little bit nervous, but Petrov, I think it was already on the prime. We saw him going green on the prime, so that was our signal, really. At that point, we believed we could turn it on. We thought that, frankly, Ferrari might be a bit more nervous of the prime than us, based on what's happened earlier in the year. We thought we could get the temperature on, and really, Lewis got straight onto that prime. As soon as he got some greens, then, frankly, we knew he had the race won. So, yeah, always, you never know. If you can suddenly get on, can't get the tyre temperature up, and you know, it goes away from you. But I think he did a fantastic job.
Well done.
Do you think, I made it just before you came on, I thought the telling factor of the whole race was Lewis's outrageously brave move on the outside of turn 2 on Alonso. That, for me, was a spectacular move in itself, but actually was the reason why he won the race, perhaps.
No, I think, you know, if you've got a great champions like Lewis and these drivers, when they get a sniff of a win, that's when you get something extraordinary. And again, what Lewis did today is extraordinary. It's what we expect of him, but it's nonetheless, it's what you know, really extraordinary race.
And you were just noticing out the corner of your eye there, something bright red. That's what Lewis Hamilton had his mirrors full of for the whole race. So Lewis knows exactly how it feels to have a Ferrari colour behind him. Stefano, that race from your perspective, we've just been discussing Lewis's great drive. Fernando was pushing like crazy as well.
Yeah, I think that was a really great race. I'm really happy, let me say that, for Martin, because I saw something that was not right in my view, a lot of pressure that not typical from England, I would say. Very typical from Italy, so I'm very happy for you, Martin.
You know how that feels to be under pressure.
I know very well,
yeah.
so I can say that to Martin. But apart from that, I think it was a great race. We were try to push as much as we can. We know that with this temperature we struggle with the warm-up of the tires, and that's the way it is. At the end of the day, Lewis did a fantastic race. Fernando was very close, but in my view, the most important thing that, you know, if we see this kind of performance, we can have a different second half of the season in order to try to challenge Red Bull, because they're still leading, they are still very strong. But so now it's my go, if you don't mind. Next race.
You take it in turns now, do you?
Yeah, we have that sort of arrangement these days.
I've never known they were that friendly in my day.
I might try and renege on it next week.
What I need to say is that, you know, you were very concerned, indeed we are. We know how the Ferrari is so susceptible to the tyre temperatures, and it doesn't like these temperatures. And now going into some very, very warm tracks, you actually look really strong.
I don't know. I think that we need to do race by race. I'm sure that Hungary, if you remember last year, in Germany we were very strong. Then we went in Hungary and we were 1 second off the pace from the Red Bull. So I think that the only signal that I can say that for me is great is to see that in certain conditions the car has improved. But let's wait and see.
Okay, Stefano, Martin,
Thank you
both very
very
much. And they're clearly getting on very well at the moment, so perhaps by working together is the only way to beat Red Bull at the moment, but we'll wait and see how the rest of the season pans out with regards to the chase of Red Bull. But today it was Lewis Hamilton's chase for the checkered flag that was a success, much to the delight of the British fans who are gathered here in their droves. It's not too far, is it, making it to Germany from the UK? But they're here and they saw Lewis Hamilton win the race. Let's hear from him.
Congratulations, Lewis. Your second win of the season. I get the feeling that meant a little bit more than your first win of the season.
Yeah, I think so. I think every win is special, but I think the emotion of and all the energy that the team put into the team, into the car, and the effort they put in. And when we don't see results like this, I think it slowly builds up. So when you finally do hit the sweet spot and get it, I think it's just ever some more. It's just ever better, you know. It's just couldn't feel any better. I think we really never expected to come here this weekend and be so fast, and we were hindered in the last race a little bit. But the guys did a fantastic job, really pushing very hard. Even the guys back in Brickworth, HPE, pushing very, very hard, and the engine was great. I just feel great. I think one of the best races I think I've ever done.
Fernando, I think the top three finishes, you all were pushing hard, maybe pushing a little bit too hard in your case as you ran out of fuel at the end of the race. Did that compromise your fight with Lewis towards the latter stages?
No, not really. I think in the last stint we could not get any close to Lewis. I think with the medium tyres we were not too quick, so we just controlled the gap with Mark and secured the second place. For us it was a fantastic race, a fantastic Sunday again. We struggled a little bit in quali, being fourth yesterday, but today again the car show a great pace, a great degradation in the tires, so we can keep the pace of the leaders, and we jump Vettel on the track and Mark in the pit stop, and it was great, the second place after the win in Silverstone, the second place in Valencia, so it's definitely a good moment of the championship for us. So next week we have another opportunity.
Mark, describe your emotions after another pole position that, sadly for you, you couldn't convert into a win.
Yeah, we weren't quick enough today. I think did everything I could. I was happy with how I drove. These guys were just had that little extra margin when they needed to do it. So especially at the back part of the stints, a little bit more range, and that made us a little bit exposed on strategy. So yeah, we know what we've got to improve on, and. Yeah, I couldn't have got much more out of what we had today, so disappointed, of course, not to get the win. But you know, all three of us had a smooth day, really. You know, good fight around the stops, and yeah. So yeah, like you say, mixed emotions. It's another good result. You need to perform at a high level to get these, but yeah, we'll keep learning, and you know, the progress has been decent, but we need to improve.
So serious disappointment then for Mark Webber. He can do the business on Saturday, but seemingly at the moment not on Sunday. For the fifth consecutive race, he doesn't turn pole into a win. And Sebastian Vettel there, who finished fourth. This is the first time he hasn't led a race this season. Congratulations to Adrian Sutil for Fourth India, finishing sixth, just in front of Nico Rosberg and Michael Schumacher. Another pretty adventurous and exciting race for him today. Finishes in the points with Vitaly Petrov rounding off the point scorers. Paul di Resta lumped right to the back very early on there. He had a coming together. He was running 24th, made it all the way up to 13th, so well done to him. Heikki Kovalainen finishes at the front of the new teams in 16th place. And with regards to the new boys, Daniel Ricciardo in just his second race, and Karun Chandhok in his first ever race for Team Lotus, finishing towards the back. Poor old Jenson Button, we'll talk about him in just a moment. Rubens Barrichello with an engine issue, and Nick Heidfeld with a rather dramatic disappearance off the track, finishes at the very back. So here we go then. After 10 rounds of the 2011 season, Sebastian Vettel still leads the championship by more than 3 race wins. 25 points for a win. Remember, Mark Webber sitting second. Lewis Hamilton now up to third in front of Fernando Alonso, who drops down to fourth. Jenson Button, no points on the board today. Michael Schumacher with 32 points now, the same as Vitaly Petrov, who's impressing actually for Renault at the moment. And the Constructors' Championship still sees Red Bull looking very dominant indeed. 355 points on the board. Now, we've actually just walked through a rather overexcited McLaren garage in there. They were all gathered around Jenson Button's car, but they weren't commiserating about Jenson's race. They were drinking champagne next to Jenson's car. That's when you know you've had a good Grand Prix. And here they are now sorting out the tyres, just clearing up after this Grand Prix. Remember, it's only a week now until we're in Hungary for the next race. But let's speak to David, who's made it down from the commentary box. Lewis says, just like he did after the race in China, one of my best ever wins. How would you rate that one?
Well, unquestionably, and then I think as Eddie mentioned, as I was walking down from the commentary box, that pass around the outside in turn 2, you've got Fernando Alonso, someone that's not going to give him any space at all, was caught napping. And just a great pass from Lewis, and that for me was the key element of winning this Grand Prix.
It was great to watch actually for the whole race. Mark Webber, Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton going toe to toe. For a long time you just couldn't call it where it was going to go, Eddie.
And actually nobody missed Vettel in the whole scene. We just had a remarkably strong race, and for the first time Sebastian wasn't there. So, you know, these guys, wheel to wheel, what I enjoy so much, it's so fast, and yet they're able to look after the cars and bring it home. The reliability is just phenomenal, what's going on with Formula One the way it is at the moment, and that's down to the teams, the engineers. So the whole thing, actually I'm going home overjoyed, because this was a really great race for me.
Interesting that Eddie mentions that Vettel wasn't really in the thick of the action. He was in the thick of some stuff, but it was making mistakes, which we've not seen from him so far yet this year. But there was 3 or 4 uncharacteristic errors in this race for him, Dave.
Yeah, well, this was up at turn 10. He gets a wheel onto the artificial grass and loses the back end, flat spots the tyres a little bit. And we just watch him here as he goes through the braking. He gets beyond the white line onto that artificial grass. You see the spray of water goes up, and of course, water on a slick tyre don't mix. And it was inevitable you'd have the spin there. And here we have him running down into the last sector here, into the chicane, locking up the front. He actually got a little bit too close to Felipe under braking, lost some front downforce, and then had to go down the escape road. You would never actually take that risk in somewhere like Monaco, of course, because just there's no space at all to make that sort of mistake.
David, I'd like your opinion on this. Do you think, I thought he drove poorly today, and I would like to know, do you think it's because he's such a lead in the championship, or, which is my thoughts on it, that he just is ridiculously quick but not very good in traffic?
Well, I was hoping to see them actually, you know, put that sort of opinion that he's not good in traffic to rest by pulling a pass on Felipe Massa, but he didn't manage to do it. He had to rely on the pit crew to do that at the last stop, remarkably on the last lap of the Grand Prix.
He almost relied on ignoring the pit crew, didn't he? Their plan for getting him past Felipe wasn't going to work, so he did his own thing, and it did work out in the end. But is that a fair assessment of Sebastian, that when he's at the front, he's brilliant, he's untouchable, he doesn't make mistakes? When he's in traffic, he doesn't look quite like the same driver.
Well, the jury is still out on it. If we look through his career, when he's been up close and personal with other cars, he has had some incidents and accidents, but out front he's been supreme. I think that would you try and take away any of that raw pace to make him a better racer? Then probably not. You know, you want him to be able to run at the front. But you know, this is going to be a slightly disappointing weekend for Red Bull. You cannot win them all. They know that. But nonetheless, it does look in these cold conditions as if the Ferrari and of course most notably the McLaren are making better use of the tyres.
Okay, well, he's certainly a better driver than 2 out of the 3 of us. Only 2 though. Let's hear from Sebastian Vettel.
Sebastian, a pretty exciting end to your race. What did it feel like when you were getting past that Ferrari in the pit lane?
It felt good. Obviously, you know, I entered to my pit box first, and yeah, when I got out, obviously you can't wait to leave the box after the boys changed the wheels, and it was nice to see that the Ferrari is still stationary. So you know, it was down to them. They did a very good job in the end. And we were pushing very hard, Felipe all race, trying to lead him into a mistake. I think both of us were right at the limit. The cars were pretty nervous, and generally I think fourth anyway was probably our maximum today, which is not satisfying. But you know, we have to accept and go from there. Next week is the next race, and yeah, it looks like, you know, McLaren and Ferrari, they are getting quicker and quicker. So we need to work harder in our car, trying to improve it in order to, you know, be back on the podium and maybe soon on the top step again.
We saw you particularly at the start of the race using every millimetre of the track and sometimes a little bit more. How difficult were conditions out there at the start? How low was the grip level?
It was actually not so bad, and I felt more comfortable than you know, the cars around me at that stage. Unfortunately, I had a good start, but then Yeah, I was right in the sandwich of the Ferrari, so I couldn't really, you know, attack under braking because I had Felipe on my outside and Fernando on the inside. You know, I have to look whether Fernando locks up the wheel or not, and then there's not much room to react or not much space. So it was quite tricky, and I had to accept that I lost the position. Yeah, but from there I came back. Fernando obviously had a mistake. I got past, but then I didn't have the pace. As easy as that, and obviously the mistake I did then and lost the rear into turn 10 didn't help and brought me, you know, behind, or put me behind Felipe, which I struggled to get past until the end, as I said with the stop.
Not the result you wanted in front of your home crowd, but do you leave here disappointed?
No, I mean, of course, you know, it's not satisfying, but I think we have to accept that today other people were quicker than us. You know, as I said, surely I'm not happy, not satisfied, so I want to come back next time. But for now, I think, you know, they have been working very hard, improved their car. We need to make sure that we come back, and I didn't feel, you know, very good all weekend. Yeah, never got to the pace probably that Mark had in the car, and as I said, you know, struggled to keep up after, you know, 3-4 laps after the warm-up stage is over, to keep up with, you know, the top 2-3 cars.
Well, those are the thoughts of the world champion. Let's get the thoughts of his team principal. And Christian, if you thought that building a car that won last year's championship and is leading this one's by over 77 points is enough, it clearly isn't. Sebastian says we've got to work harder with the car. He said that he wasn't happy all weekend. What's been the problem?
No, he's not found a balance with the car that he was particularly, you know, happy with. It's similar to, you know, 2009 here in many respects, but you know, obviously he then had that spin, flat spotted the tyres, but his pace picked up quite dramatically in the second half, and ultimately his race came down to a pit stop against Massa at the end there. But you know, still, as always in Formula One, there's work to do.
Christian, we heard very clearly his engineer, Sebastian's engineer, telling him, listen, there's good points to be picked up, just be cautious. Is that your modus operandi for the remainder of the season? You have this big lead and you want to maintain it?
No, I think, you know, we've got to attack every single weekend, and Seb's mentality isn't, he's not looking at the leaderboard at the moment. He's conscious of it, but you know, on a weekend where he hasn't been the standout quickest driver, obviously consolidating and picking up those points, and a 4th place on a bad day is not too bad.
Well, something that David noticed during the commentary was Mark's start in particular, and we can have a look, actually. We can ride with Mark for the start of this Grand Prix. Sadly, we just missed the sort of beginning of the start there, because it sounded like the car bogged down before he got going. What was the problem?
I haven't spoken to Mark yet. I mean, it's you could see he didn't get off the line particularly cleanly, and Lewis had a great start, but we need to speak with him and understand, you know, obviously getting the revs and the clutch engagement right is a pretty tricky procedure.
OK, well, if we run that from the top again, David, we can listen to the car, and perhaps you can explain how it does sound and actually how it should sound, because you picked up on this straight away, didn't you?
Yeah, well, the starting procedure for the drivers is that they've got 2 clutch paddles, and you just listen. Just before he releases the clutch, it sounded to me like the engine RPM was tailing off slightly, so I wondered if it was starting to drag the clutch ever so slightly before he got going, because it's definitely bogged down a lot. Then we had that sort of juddering noise as he's doing a sort of half spinning of the rear tyres, and then of course that was enough just to lose the momentum.
Yeah, I think all the starts around him look better. If you look at not only Lewis's but Fernando and Seb's, they all look stronger starts. And it's a fine line finding that engagement on the clutch, not getting wheel spin but not under rotating the rear tyre. So you know, it's not, as you know, an easy thing to do.
Okay. Well, let's get ourselves into the race then and have a look at a couple of the pit stops, which were all important today, because we saw Lewis coming out behind Mark at times. Another time, you know, Lewis getting in front of him and gave him a lovely love kiss as they exited. Getting your strategy right today was absolutely essential, wasn't it?
Absolutely, and what was fascinating was at the first stop we managed to lead Mark into the lead by taking the undercut, but at the second stop, which this was, it didn't work. He wasn't quite quick enough in the first sector. I don't think we could generate the tyre temperature that McLaren managed. You could see how close it was, but it was, you know, it was very, very tight, and then obviously they got pretty close on the curb there.
Yeah, it's we're going to join on board here with Mark, so expect we'll be seeing Lewis coming out of the end of the pit lane here. So this is a worst nightmare for the driver. You're like, oh, not quite close enough. I think Mark actually lost about 0.8 in the middle sector on that particular lap, but then he gets a great run off turn one, goes to the outside, but that's always going to be a big ask, isn't it, going on the outside of Lewis Hamilton, and nothing untoward there. Lewis just held his line, and ultimately Mark had to give up the position.
Did it catch you guys by surprise, suddenly realising that what traditionally works suddenly doesn't work because the tyres weren't helping the guys to leap in front of each other?
Well, it worked at the first stop, and then we've got exactly the same situation here with Alonso, but you see Lewis gets that drive, goes to the outside and manages to have enough space to work with and get round there. So it was almost a reverse effect of what happened at the first stop, which got Mark into the lead.
Christian, I'm fascinated by not this particular piece, but as we come on later on, when we see your car coming in, your engineer clearly telling Sebastian to come in, and he didn't come in. What happened there?
Bit of gamesmanship with Ferrari.
Yes, but it was he just didn't honour the call that he was given, did he?
Yeah, obviously everybody's watching each other, and we threw a dummy, they didn't go for it, they threw us a dummy, we didn't go for it, and in the end they both had to stop because it was the last lap, and then it's a straight fight between our boys and theirs, and as you can see, our guys did a phenomenal job and turned that car around so quickly. It was one of the best stops of the day, if not the quickest of the day, under huge pressure, which Ferrari have been looking to put us under.
Well, it was incredible, actually. I was watching from the commentary box, and Ferrari were out in the pit lane 30 seconds before the car came. You still went through the same procedure with your mechanics coming out as the car was pretty much coming into the 100 km/h speed limit. So, they were really staying with the same drill that you've got all the time.
Well, they practice this in, day out, every day of the week, and they've done a phenomenal job under huge pressure. 1 lap to go, they've seen the Ferrari come in ahead of them. Sebastian's coming in, and under massive pressure, that's the kind of performance that helps win you races, helps win you championships, and they've done a great job for both drivers today.
Well, you're still in the box seat for the championship. That pit stop at the end there, 2 what could be very valuable points for Sebastian Vettel, extra in the bag. So thanks very much for joining us, and well done today. It wasn't the win, but hey, you can't have them all the time, all right?
Absolutely. On a miserable day, obviously, in Germany, then a third and fourth isn't too bad. We're looking forward to going where it's a bit hotter, hopefully next weekend. All
right, best of luck. Thank you very much. Nice to chat to you. Well, maybe we should go back to the actual start of the race and then have a look from the perspective of a number of the different drivers, because Lewis Hamilton looking to be aggressive from the start. We know that Michael Schumacher had a great start as well, and obviously big disappointment for Mark Webber, David.
Yeah, once again, Mark Webber, pole position, fantastic job on Saturday, and then he's not able to get a clean run off the line. Lewis Hamilton, and typically attacking style. I've got to say, all the drivers doing a fantastic job to keep out of each other's, rubbing bodywork and losing wing end plates. Somehow learning about what the weight of these cars are like with 150 kilos of fuel on board, cold tyres, of course, cold track temperatures. And then we just saw in the background there the spin with Nick Heidfeld and Paul di Resta.
Which was a shame. And Fernando Alonso really fighting early doors there with the world champion Sebastian Vettel. That was great to see.
Well, it was great to see, and I think Fernando has come of age in the last couple of races. He now believes that the updates that they brought to Silverstone are really beginning to work. We all feared for Ferrari here because they themselves said we're going to be hopeless. They don't like these conditions. They don't like it so cold. The tyres clearly don't work. They'll be going home extremely happy because they've got probably their 2 worst races out of the way. One with a win and the second place here.
Yeah,
they're happy.
On the flip side, though, just after the moment that we saw there, Paul di Resta ended up in the gravel. He ended up last. He fought incredibly hard. Couldn't quite pick up points, so let's hear from him.
Well, Paul, after a pretty disappointing start, I think it's fair to say you did your best to work back. Just tell us about the incident with Heidfeld.
I'm not really too sure. I got a reasonable start. I think I was in the same position I was. And I was, next to Michael, racing Michael, and then I got a hit from the back. And it can obviously have been Heidfeld because he was the one stopped when I was spun round. I'm sure I think he got a drive through later in the race, but I had an incident with Boemi, but there was, it was out of my control. He just hit me from behind and it spun.
And just explain how you're feeling, because I know that you were really keen to get some good points here. It's been another testing weekend for you.
It has, and it certainly showed. Our pace has been very good. We've came here with a package, and Adrian, luckily enough, brought in a lot of points for the team, finishing 6th. It obviously showed the pace of the car. I think our strategy was quite good. We managed to go right till 6 laps before the end, before having to stop for the prime. That was the most optimal way for us. It's just unlucky that we weren't in a good position to start with from that.
So Paul di Resta heads to Hungary, desperately hoping that he can pick up points once again in Formula One. So the German Grand Prix can be relived, if you so wish, 7 o'clock tonight on BBC Three and BBC HD. Now, we saw quite a bit of contact today. You might see a bit over on BBC Two right now as well. The Challenge Cup quarter-final, Hull against Leeds. And they were here 2 weeks ago, the MotoGP boys. Stoner against Lorenzo at the moment. Lorenzo's on pole. You can see all the action tonight, BBC Two at 10 o'clock. So we're off in just 7 days' time to the Hungarian Grand Prix. We can't wait for that, but we're not off anywhere right now if you press the red button. Love F1?
Yes.
Want more?
Yeah, absolutely.
Want to see more of Eddie's lovely Monaco shirt?
No.
Then you know what to do.
No idea.
You need the F1 forum.
The F1?
After the show, just press the red button.
Which red button?
The F1 forum for more reaction, analysis and behind-the-scenes action. Press the red button.
This weekend it's time to do it.
Amazing. Have a look.
So we'll see you all there.
Difficult to say.
Oh, come on. Mark, surely you're with us?
Say yes.
There you go, Mark's in, and Eddie is wearing his special red button F1 forum shirt as well. We'd love to get your tweets at Jake Humphrey F1 if you've got an opinion on this race. We'll talk about Jenson Button's race. We've hardly had a chance to talk about that. You can also email us f1@bbc.co.uk. But we'd love you to get in touch, press red and stay with us. If you can't do that, fair enough. You've got a Sunday to get on with, I suppose. We'll see you in 7 days' time for the Hungarian Grand Prix. But David Coulthard, Eddie Jordan, thank you both very much for that. So, he was moody in Monaco. He struggled at Silverstone. He crashed in Canada, but with some incredible driving, nails it at the Nürburgring. Lewis Hamilton is back in the game. Bye-bye.
Go! Hamilton takes the lead of the Grand Prix. This is shaping up to be another classic. Webber's going to be through here. Hamilton back in the lead. He never wants to give up. Webber has track position. Hamilton's done it. He's back in the lead. Lewis Hamilton wins the German Grand Prix.
Next time on Formula One, Round 11, Hungary.